Gladys Knight's story begins with a voice that the world couldn't forget. She sang gospel at just 4 years old and stunned everyone who heard her. At 8, she went on national television and won Ted Mack's Original Amateur Hour with her beautiful version of Too Young. Her powerful and mature voice shocked the judges and audience. Nobody could believe such emotion could come from a child. That early success gave her family hope during tough times in Atlanta, Georgia, where segregation was still strong. Her parents, Merrill and Sarah Knight, worked hard, her father a postal worker and her mother a nurse's aide, giving their children faith, discipline, and love. Gladys and her 3 siblings grew up surrounded by gospel music at church, where she learned how to move people with her singing. At her brother Bubba's 10th birthday party, a broken record player led to a magical moment. Gladys started singing, and soon her siblings and cousins joined in. The family was so amazed that they decided to keep performing together. They named themselves the Pips, after their cousin James "Pip" Woods. What started as a simple act at a party turned into something historic. They were just kids, but their harmony, energy, and passion were undeniable. By age 9, they were earning money for their performances and had become local celebrities in Atlanta. No one knew it then, but that small family group would one day conquer the world of soul music. As the 1950s went on, the young Gladys Knight and the Pips began performing across the South. They joined the Chitlin Circuit, a network of venues that allowed black musicians to perform safely during segregation. Life on the road was not easy. Sometimes they were paid with food instead of money, and they often had to sleep in their car because hotels refused to accept them. Yet they never gave up. Every night, Gladys's deep, soulful voice filled the clubs and churches they visited, and the audiences loved her. She studied great singers like Sam Cooke and Jackie Wilson, learning how to hold a crowd and command the stage. In 1957, Jackie Wilson helped the group record their first single, "Whistle My Love." The record didn't become a national hit, but it gave them experience in the recording studio and made them known across Georgia. A few years later, they recorded "Every Beat of My Heart," and this time the world took notice. The song became a hit on both the R&B and pop charts, and suddenly Gladys Knight and the Pips were national stars. However, behind that success was unfairness. Their record label underpaid them and took most of the profits. Even then, they refused to quit. The group continued to perform tirelessly, growing stronger with each performance. By the early 1960s, they had gained attention from big names like Motown Records. Their talent was undeniable, but the music industry was still difficult for black artists. Even as they performed for huge crowds, they couldn't stay in the same hotels or eat in the same restaurants as their white fans. Those experiences gave Gladys a strong sense of pride and determination. She would never forget the struggles, and she promised herself she would fight for respect, both for herself and for other black musicians. When Gladys Knight and the Pips signed with Motown in 1966, they entered a world filled with legends like Diana Ross, Stevie Wonder, and Marvin Gaye. Motown was the dream label for many artists, but it wasn't always fair. Gladys and her group were placed on a smaller branch of the label called Soul Records, which focused more on deeper R&B than pop hits. Their first single, "Just Walk in My Shoes," was a modest success, especially in the UK. But the real breakthrough came in 1967 when they recorded "I Heard It Through the Grapevine." The song became one of the biggest hits of the decade, reaching #1 on the R&B charts and #2 on the pop charts. Even though Marvin Gaye later made his own version that became a classic, Gladys's version came first and was filled with raw emotion. Her voice carried pain, power, and truth, and fans could feel it. The song's success made Gladys Knight and the Pips household names. However, the journey was still full of challenges. When they toured with the Supremes, they often outshined the main act, and this caused tension. Diana Ross complained that the group stole the show, and soon they were removed from the tour. Still, Gladys kept her head high and continued creating timeless music. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, the group released a string of hits like "Friendship Train," "If I Were Your Woman," and "Neither One of Us Wants to Be the First to Say Goodbye." Each song carried emotion and truth, showing Gladys's ability to pour her heart into her music. "Neither One of Us" earned them a Grammy and became a song that defined their careers. Yet, even while climbing the charts, Gladys felt unappreciated at Motown. The label gave the best songs to other stars, and she decided to leave. Leaving Motown was risky, but Gladys Knight was ready to take control of her destiny. In 1973, she and the Pips joined Buddha Records, a smaller label that gave them more freedom. That same year, they released "Imagination," and it became a major hit. For the first time, Gladys had full creative control, and it showed. The songs were fresh, emotional, and powerful. Then came the song that would define her forever, Midnight Train to Georgia. Originally written as Midnight Plane to Houston, the song was changed to fit Gladys's southern roots. It told the story of a man giving up fame and returning home, and a woman choosing love over success. When Gladys sang it, the world listened. The song reached #1 on the Billboard charts and won a Grammy. It became one of the greatest soul songs ever recorded, with its call-and-response vocals and deep emotion. Even decades later, Midnight Train to Georgia still moves people. Over the next few years, Gladys and the Pips released more hits like I've Got to Use My Imagination, Best Thing That Ever Happened to Me, and I Feel a Song in My Heart. Their concerts sold out around the world, and fans in places like Japan waited outside for days just to see her perform. Gladys had finally achieved the respect she always wanted. But behind the smiles, her personal life was falling apart. Gladys Knight's personal life was filled with heartbreak. At just 16, she married her first husband, James Newman, and soon after, she lost her first baby. Though they later had 2 children, James and Kenya, Newman fell into drug addiction. The marriage crumbled, and by her early 20s, Gladys was raising 2 kids alone while trying to keep her music career alive. She stayed legally married for 12 years before divorcing him in 1973. The same year her career was reaching new heights. Not long after, she married Barry Hankerson, a music producer. They had a son named Shanga, but this marriage was also full of pain. Their relationship ended in a nasty custody battle that turned into a nightmare. In 1979, their young son was kidnapped during the legal fight. Gladys spent more than $1 million to get him back. The emotional pain broke her spirit, and soon she began to gamble heavily to cope with the stress. Casinos became her escape, but the addiction nearly destroyed her. One night she lost more than $600,000 at a single table. Another time, she forgot to pick up her son from school because she was gambling for hours. The breaking point came when she won $60,000, only to lose it minutes later. That was when she finally called Gamblers Anonymous from the casino. Someone came immediately and took her to a meeting. That decision changed her life. From that moment on, she never gambled again. In the 1990s, Gladys Knight continued to perform, but her personal life remained complicated. She married motivational speaker Les Brown in 1995, hoping for stability and peace. Unfortunately, the marriage lasted only 2 years. She later said that the relationship left her with financial troubles and emotional exhaustion. But through all this pain, she found faith. Her oldest son, Jimmy, had joined the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and invited her to do the same. In 1997, she was baptized and found a new purpose in life. Gladys said her faith gave her the strength to overcome pain, addiction, and loss. She formed a gospel choir called Saints Unified Voices, which later won a Grammy Award. However, tragedy struck again when her son Jimmy died in 1999 at only 37 years old. Gladys said that her belief in eternal families helped her survive the heartbreak. Her faith gave her peace, even as life continued to test her. In 2001, Gladys married William McDowell, a man 33 years younger than her. For many years it seemed like she had finally found lasting love. They appeared happy together, and Gladys continued performing worldwide. But in 2025, shocking news broke when her son Shanga accused McDowell of abuse and financial manipulation. He claimed Gladys was being mistreated and overworked. Gladys denied it, saying she was healthy, happy, and still loved to perform. Yet the public-family conflict left many fans deeply worried about her well-being. As Gladys grew older, her body began to show the weight of her long and difficult life. In 2018, she revealed that she had been diagnosed with stage 1 breast cancer. Luckily, doctors found it early, and she recovered after treatment. She made the news again when people confused her illness with Aretha Franklin's death. But Gladys cleared the rumors by telling fans she was healthy and grateful to be alive. Even after her recovery, she continued to perform, proving that her strength was as powerful as her voice. Behind every shining stage light stood a woman who quietly paid the price for greatness. Gladys Knight's journey through fame was not one of glamour alone. It was also a test of endurance. As her popularity soared in the 1970s and 1980s, so did the expectations placed upon her. Record labels wanted hits faster, promoters wanted longer tours, and fans wanted constant perfection. There were times she felt like a product instead of a person. Her natural kindness made it hard to say no, and sometimes she pushed herself to exhaustion just to please everyone. She often spoke about the loneliness of fame. Even when surrounded by thousands of cheering fans, she sometimes felt isolated. Hotel rooms became prisons of silence, and plane rides felt endless. Gladys would often call her mother late at night just to hear a familiar voice. "People think success fills your life," she once said, but sometimes it empties your soul. She longed for normal moments, cooking a meal without cameras, walking through a park without fans chasing her. Fame, she realized, is both a gift and a burden. Despite the pressures, she never allowed bitterness to consume her. Instead, she learned how to balance the chaos with gratitude. Before every concert, she prayed for strength and peace. That simple habit became her secret weapon against the stress of the entertainment world. Whenever reporters asked how she managed to stay grounded for so many years, she would smile and reply, "Because I remember where I came from." In her later years, Gladys Knight became more than just an icon. She became a mentor. Young artists often reached out to her for guidance, especially Black women who looked up to her as a trailblazer. She would tell them to never compromise their values for fame. "Your gift is sacred," she would say. "Don't let anyone use it to sell something you don't believe in." She personally advised singers like Alicia Keys and Fantasia Barrino, both of whom later thanked her publicly for her mentorship. When Jennifer Hudson rose to fame, Gladys sent her a handwritten note that read, "Stay strong, baby girl. The world can be loud, but your heart knows the truth." Jennifer framed that note and still keeps it in her home. Gladys also made time to support local musicians in her church and community. She funded music scholarships for students who couldn't afford training, and gave free performances at schools to inspire kids. To her, success meant nothing if she couldn't lift others along the way. She often said, "If your gift dies with you, it was never a gift, it was a secret." Even as her health grew fragile, she continued mentoring through her foundation, which supported programs for at-risk youth, addiction recovery, and family counseling. Many of the people she helped had no idea she was behind the donations. She didn't need recognition. She only wanted to give back the grace she had received. Though Gladys eventually went solo, she never forgot the people who started the journey with her, her beloved Pips. Her brother Bubba Knight and cousins William Guest and Edward Patton were not just background singers, they were her musical family. Together, they spent decades on the road, through laughter, exhaustion, and endless rehearsals. When the group decided to retire from touring in the late 1980s, it was a difficult moment for Gladys. They had spent more than 30 years together, and the separation felt like losing a part of herself. Still, she supported their decision with love. After they retired, she continued visiting them, calling often, and crediting them for her success. When William Guest and Edward Patton later passed away, she was devastated. At their funerals, she sang softly and tearfully, a final gift to the people who had shared her dream. Even now, she often mentions the Pips during interviews. She says their harmonies still echo in her heart whenever she performs. "We were one heartbeat," she says. "Without them, I would never have found my way." That loyalty, even decades later, shows the depth of her gratitude and humility. Gladys Knight's rise to fame happened during one of the most turbulent times in American history, the Civil Rights era. She didn't march on the front lines like Martin Luther King Jr., but she supported the movement through her music. Songs like Friendship Train carried powerful messages about unity and equality. Her performances often served as fundraisers for civil rights groups, and she used her platform to speak out against racial injustice. She recalled how difficult it was to travel through the segregated South during her early career. She and her band were refused hotel rooms, forced to sleep on buses, and sometimes threatened by police. But instead of responding with hate, she used her voice to inspire hope. "Music can go where anger can't," she said. Her songs became bridges between races, showing that soul music was universal. It spoke to everyone's heart. Years later, when Barack Obama became president, Gladys performed at his inauguration celebrations. She called it one of the proudest moments of her life. Standing there, she felt the weight of history,